This is absolutely perfect for the Sharks, as one free agent defenseman is standing out against the rest for them to sign this offseason. Plus, the Sharks make a sneaky good signing with their first extension of this year, and we're going to break it all down for you guys coming up on this episode of Sharks Digest, so you're not going to want to miss out on all the fun stuff here today. And if you want to not miss out on all the fun stuff surrounding the Sharks, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're on the road for 2,000 subscribers here, so if you're not subscribed, you want to stay up to date on a very busy offseason, we'll be here every day keeping you up to date on what's on the go around the San Jose Sharks. But with that said, before we get into the free agent defenseman that could potentially end up in the Bay Area next season, we got to talk about the sneaky good signing that Mike Grier and the San Jose Sharks made yesterday, as they re-signed Shakir Mukhamadullin to a 1-year, $1 million deal. I absolutely love this contract. This is a guy who got called up from the AHL last year in a time of need and really showed out for this team. Really showed how good of a defensive defenseman he is at such a young age. Was really well equipped to be able to make that jump, and he got into a fair amount of games this year. I mean, if we just take a look at his stats from this season, he got into 30 games, which is a lot for a guy who's bouncing up and down in the system. And then he did end up with 9 points in those 30 games. But the big number to look at here when we're talking about Shaq is his block shots. He had 51 block shots in 30 of those games, averaging over a block per game. And he's 6'4", at only 25 hits. He averaged 18 minutes time on ice as well. Really showed out while he was with the San Jose Sharks just last season. In the small sample size that we did see from him, and we just see from Ryan Ma's scouting performance card here that just a little breakdown on how he did play in those games that he did get into. He had 87% on play driving, which I loved. I think he was a very great outlet passer from his own zone. Obviously, they say here he had 70% finishing, which I thought was interesting, but his defense is obviously the big numbers here. Obviously, the intangibles here, 86%, 51% on hits, 72% on blocks, 66% on discipline, which is great from a defensive defenseman, meaning he's not taking very many penalties, and his penalty drawn percentage is almost at 50%, which I think is great. I really did like Shaq in the games we did see him in this season, and I think this is a guy who definitely has a lot of potential and has the potential to be a very, very solid defensive defenseman for this San Jose Sharks team going forward in the future, because I think championship teams always need a guy like Shaq. They always need a guy who's going to go out, put his body on the line, get in front of pucks, also get physical and mix it up at times. And we've seen that. And like I said, it's a small sample size of what we've seen this season. But what I see out of this contract for Shaq is, okay, we've seen you have impress us in this last season. So now we're going to give you a 1-year, $1 million prove-it deal to say, hey, can you consistently do this over a season as potentially a 7th D-man? And I think that he will thrive in this scenario, and I think this is a guy that we need to keep around. I really do like his game, and I think you pair up a solid two-way or even offensive defenseman with him, I think that pairing would just dominate here in San Jose. So I really did like that, and leading into, the current San Jose defense situation on that left side, it is pretty jammed. You have Mario Ferraro, Henry Thrun, Marc-Edouard Vlasic, a guy who's maybe going into his last season. Then you have Mukhamadullin. Also have Sam Dickinson waiting in the wing as well, who I do think that will make this roster this year. So there is a lot of defense on that left side, but one thing that we're noticing here, not very many on the right side. And this is what I wanted to bring up because there's a lot of options in this free agency for Mike Grier and the San Jose Sharks to do, whether they go out, get some forward help or get some goaltending help. But I agree, and everybody in the comments I see agrees, they need to work on their defense core here. I think the left side is fine, but you need to go out and get a right-hand shot defenseman in this year's free agency. So I went ahead on Puckpedia and searched up the free agents between 18 to 30 years old that are right-handed and seen how many come up. I want to get your guys' guess in the comment section of how many of those come up, but we're going to get into it now. There was only 6 guys, yeah, you're reading that right, 6 available right defensemen between 18 years old and 30 years old in this year's free agency. So they are going to be some sought-after players here come free agency. I didn't look 30 and beyond because I thought that may be out of Mike Grier's range. So maybe we will talk about that later on closer to free agency day. But as of today, these are the 6 that are available. But it's really only 5 because Aaron Ekblad, let's be real, he's not leaving Florida. That is not happening. So that only leaves a list of 5 names here, and 2 names that really stand out to me in Yoki Haru. But the one that I love and the one that I think is a perfect fit for the San Jose Sharks is Dante Fabbro. And if we just take a look at his stats this season, he really showed out this season. I believe he had a 1-year deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets, kind of like a prove-it deal, like I said, with Shakir Mukhamadullin there. He went out, played 68 games, had a great improvement year at only 26. I mean, he is going to be 27 going into next season by the looks of it here. But I do think he is a guy who is in that age range where if you can give him a 5-year deal, he's right into the window of when the Sharks are going to want to compete in maybe 2, possibly 3 years' time. And looking at the stats here, yes, he had 26 points in those 68 games with 9 goals, 17 assists, but the big numbers I did want to talk about when it comes to Dante Fabbro is his block shot total. You see here 143 block shots, which puts him at almost 2 blocks per game, which, I mean, he's got to be walking around with a lot of ice packs on after blocking that many shots in the season. And also 67 hits. I think this guy is a great right-hand shot defense, and like I said, there's going to be a lot of people with that are going to be looking at him and offering him contracts come free agency. But I do think that the Sharks could sway him with their their young mentality and how they're kind of next up. We've seen him in Nashville his whole career, and then he went to Columbus. Maybe he will take a route of coming to San Jose. I definitely think that is a possibility. And if you're not familiar with his game, we're just going to take a look at his breakdown. Like I said, he's more of a defensive style defenseman. He has strong positional plays, excellent gap control, excellent stick work, reliable shot blocker, a key penalty killer, which is a big selling point for the San Jose Sharks. He is going to be a guy who is going to be a staple of the penalty kill, and obviously in years like this, as San Jose Sharks fans and as the team, they're maybe less disciplined because they are a younger team. So having a guy who can just kill penalties is obviously key. They're obviously saying he's a smart puck mover. He makes simple, effective breakout passes. And like I said, we just seen his stat total, and he shoots for tips and rebounds, but he isn't a power play guy. He's more of a penalty kill guy. And just keeping going on here, they say he's not overly physical, but he does play through injuries, and he positions himself in success areas. He has high awareness. He's calm under pressure, and he's rarely penalized, which, like I said, in a younger team that may be taking more penalties, that is definitely a key necessity. He said he can play top player or second pair roles as well. And obviously, they say he thrived this year with a plus 23, plus minus, an A- season grade, and some comparable players we're seeing around the league in Marcus Pettersson and Damian Severson. And I love this, to be honest with you. I really do think that Dante Fabbro is the perfect Sharks guy. I mean, looking at the numbers that we're looking at here, potential contracts of around 3.5 to 5 million AAV. I think this is the guy. I think as a guy who has been, covering the Sharks and watching the Sharks for quite some time, I think that the defense was definitely a key issue for this team this year, and obviously that right side is now hampered with only 2 defensemen currently signed. There are currently no NHL guys on that side. I think this is a key signing for Mike Grier. They need to address this right-hand shot defense role, and I think Dante Fabbro is the perfect guy to do that. He is in that younger range, under 30. He's got about 3 years till he hits that 30 mark. Maybe you get him on a 3-year $5 million deal. I think that would be a acceptable deal, or maybe they offer him a bit more money to kind of, get him into San Jose, because at this point in time, there's going to be other teams that are going to be wanting a right-hand shot defense that may be able to offer him, the same amount of money, and they have a little bit more advantage reeling him in because maybe they're in a playoff contention or something like that. But I do think locking Severson up, or locking Fabbro up to a 5-year deal here in San Jose is definitely what I would try to do if I was Mike Grier. But if you have to settle for 3, which puts him in the window at 30 where he can still go on if the Sharks aren't competing at that time, maybe that's more, his kind of speed. But I like this. I think that they really need to address this right side, and looking at the options that are available in free agency, there's not very many. If they did go out and want to make a trade, they definitely could make that work. But as of free agency, Dante Fabbro is my guy. That is the guy who I'm looking at for the Sharks to sign. He is a great defenseman. Looking at some potential future pairings we could see in the Bay Area with this, I kind of went ahead and put him with Henry Thrun here as that second pairing, because I did like Ferraro and Liljegren. I think those guys have a great chemistry. I think Ferraro obviously being the more defensive guy, Liljegren kind of leaning more two-way. I think they do work out together, and you want to have Fabbro up here in this second pairing. I think Henry Thrun really showed what he was made of last season, and maybe having a more NHL experienced guy around him could definitely elevate his game to the next level as well. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. This is, doing some research today. This is the guy who I like. I think he is the perfect fit for Ryan Warsofsky coach team, and I just want to hear your guys' thoughts down below. Are you going out and getting Dante Fabbro, or are you going out and, maybe signing one of these other guys that I did mention today? Love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. But as always, I've been your host, KC. We'll catch you in the next one.